Hi, I'm Mustafa Akan from Carnegie Mellon University, and I'm happy to talk about our work on dynamic exception points for fair liver allocation. Liver transplantation is the only viable treatment for end-stage liver disease. Currently, there are more than 10,000 patients waiting for a transplant on the liver transplant waitlist. And last year, more than 2,000 patients died while they were waiting for a transplant. Because we cannot afford to deal the organs randomly, what are some considerations that are involved in determining who gets a liver? First, there are time and money constraints in getting the recipient and the donor in the same operating room. Next, what are the algorithms that can be used to determine who is at the top of the line? And finally, do we even ask our algorithms to solve the right problem? In the current paradigm, the rank order of the waitlist is determined only by blood type and medical urgency. Medical urgency is calculated using a formula called the MELT formula. The MELT formula depends on three lab values, which are altered if there is a liver disease in the patient. As the candidate's disease progresses, the MELT score changes over time. For those patients where these lab values are altered, the MELT score is a fairly good predictor of 3-month mortality. The current allocation system considers blood type, but it does not consider size matching. But we cannot fit large livers into small recipients. Because size is not built into the current allocation system, smaller recipients, and therefore women, because of their smaller stature, are disadvantaged, and they die at a higher rate while they are waiting for a transplant, as shown in this table, which compares the probability of receiving a liver transplant for different height groups compared to the height group above 185 centimeters. So what do we do in this work? Our goal is to achieve a fairer liver allocation system by providing MELT exception scores based on height. We model the United States liver allocation system as a multi-class overloaded fluid queuing system with multiple server classes. We allow the patients to change classes while they wait for a transplant, and this is used to model the disease evolution. We impose explicit equity constraints across static patient classes, which means the height groups. Then we solve the resulting optimal control problem by looking at the dual optimal control problem and solving for the dual optimal control values. We interpret the shadow prices of the equity constraints coming out of the dual optimal control problem as MELT exception scores for the disadvantaged groups. This provides us with a flexible framework which can be used for other fairness problems too. And this is how the optimization model and the simulation model interact. We use the liver simulated allocation model, LSAM for short, to simulate the proposed policies. The parameter estimates are obtained from the LSAM model and fed into the optimization model. The exception points are calculated in the optimization model and then are simulated in the simulation model. We compare the current policy, which is dynamic but doesn't consider height. Our policy is dynamic and it also considers height. The simulation results show that our policy narrows the equity gap across different height groups for different metrics of equity, such as likelihood of transplant, likelihood of death, and the transplant probabilities. And these improvements in fairness comes without hurting the efficiency of the current allocation system. How about the effects on gender and race? The simulation results show that for women, the disparity is almost completely eliminated. For Hispanic and Asian patients, They also benefit greatly from providing these multi-exception scores. In conclusion, this work addresses the size-based inequity in liver allocation. Our model provides a flexible framework for studying other general fairness problems, such as multiple organ transplants and different manifestations of the liver disease. As for social justice principles, access to organ transplant is especially important. That is because the organ transplant system relies on the voluntary donation of the organs. Therefore, a fair distribution and allocation of the organs is paramount for maintaining the interest of the public in organ donation. Thanks for listening.